People tell you to stay connected. They tell you to join things, call people, get out of the house. And that's good advice. I'm not arguing with it. But nobody tells you about the specific kind of loneliness that finds you even when you're not alone. The kind that sits down next to you at a family dinner. The kind that shows up in the middle of a perfectly pleasant conversation with a neighbor you've known for 20 years. The kind that isn't about being by yourself. It's about being unseen, misunderstood, and slowly, so slowly you almost miss it, becoming a stranger to the world that shaped you. That's the loneliness nobody names. And if you've felt it, even once, I want you to know, you're not imagining it. You're not being ungrateful. You're being honest. This is the decade when the deepest kind of aloneness isn't about an empty room. It's about an empty echo. I'm not going to give you a list of tips today, my friends. I'm going to sit with you in something true. And maybe, by the end, it will feel a little less heavy. The first thing I want to talk about is what I call the vanishing witnesses. I had a friend named Roland. We grew up on the same street. He knew the version of me that used to ride a bicycle too fast down Millbrook Road. He remembered the name of my first dog. He knew the joke I always told at New Year's. When Roland died, 4 years ago now, something very particular went with him. Not just his company, but his memory of me. The me I used to be. The young, foolish, full of life me that only he still carried. But here's what I've come to understand about that grief. When we lose people who knew our younger selves, we don't just lose them. We lose a mirror, a living record. And the loneliness that follows isn't simple sadness. It's something closer to erasure, like a chapter of your life has no more witnesses, like it happened, but now, who's left to confirm it? What I want to suggest, gently, is this. Find something that holds that memory. A photograph, a letter, even just a notebook where you write down one thing Roland, or whoever yours was, used to know about you. Not for anyone else, just so the record exists, so that version of you doesn't disappear without a trace. The second thing, and this one is harder to name, I call it the language gap. I was sitting with my granddaughter last spring. She was telling me about something that happened with her friends, some falling out, some misunderstanding, and she was clearly upset. And I wanted so much to help. I had things to say, things I'd learned, things I'd lived through. But the words that came out of my mouth, she looked at me like I'd arrived from a different planet. Not unkindly, just from very far away. And I realized, sitting there in her kitchen, that we were speaking different languages, not different words exactly, different worlds. And I'll tell you something. That moment stung. Not because she was dismissive, she wasn't, but because I felt, in a quiet and precise way, that the things I know most deeply, the things I've paid dearly to understand, had no currency in the room I was sitting in. But here's what I didn't see at first. The language gap isn't a failure. It's a sign of something true, that you have traveled far, that the country you live in now, the one made of time and loss and hard-won perspective, it isn't a country most people have visited yet. And that's not a reason for bitterness. It's a reason for patience, and maybe for finding the right people, even one or two, who speak something closer to your language, someone your own age or older, someone who nods without you having to explain. This week, reach out to one person who knew the same era you knew, not to reminisce for the sake of it, but to speak freely, to say something without translation. The third thing sits quietly inside the other two. I call it the invisible shrinking. There was a period, and I say this without self-pity, because I think many of you will recognize it, when I started making myself smaller, without meaning to, without deciding to. I stopped sharing opinions at the table. I stopped correcting things that needed correcting. I started assuming that what I had to say was already known, already old, already somehow less urgent than whatever the younger voices in the room were carrying. I remember standing in my own kitchen once, in the middle of a family gathering, and realizing I hadn't said a substantial thing in 2 hours. I'd laughed, I'd nodded, I'd passed the bread, but I had disappeared from the conversation, quietly, like smoke. But here's what I want you to hear. That shrinking, it doesn't come from weakness. It comes from a long life of learning when to hold back. That instinct was useful once, but in these years, it can become a habit that harms you, because your voice, the one shaped by everything you've survived, is not a lesser voice. It is, if anything, the most honestly earned voice in the room. Say one true thing this week, at dinner, on the phone, in a letter, not to be heard for the sake of it, but to remind yourself that you are still here, still present, still worth listening to. The fourth thing is what I think of as the crowd that left. It happens gradually. So gradually, you almost can't point to it. The birthday calls thin out, the invitations slow. The friendships you thought were permanent reveal themselves over time to be circumstantial, built on proximity, on shared work, on children in the same school. And when the circumstances change, as circumstances do, the friendships go quiet, and you're left looking at a contact list full of people you feel you should call, but somehow can't. Because the bridge between then and now is too long and too fragile. I had a woman in my life, Eleanor, who I was certain would be my friend until one of us died. We'd had dinner together for 15 years, and then, slowly, the dinners became phone calls, and the phone calls became Christmas cards, and the Christmas cards just stopped. No falling out, no reason, just a fading. And for a long time, I blamed myself. But here's the truth I had to make my peace with. Not all friendships are failures when they end. Some of them were exactly what they needed to be for exactly as long as they needed to be. Eleanor and I, we were dinner friends, good ones. And the fact that we grew apart doesn't undo 15 years of good dinners. Grief and gratitude can exist at the same time. You're allowed to miss something and still be glad it happened. And here's the small thing. Think of one friendship, not a faded one, but a living one, that you've been neglecting simply because life got quiet. Make the call, not to catch up on news, just to say, I was thinking about you. Because at our age, my friends, those words matter more than we sometimes remember. The fifth thing, the last one, and perhaps the most important, I call it the missing understander. This one is subtle. This one lives underneath the others. It's not about missing specific people exactly. It's about missing the feeling of being truly understood, not explained, not managed, not accommodated, understood, seen at your actual depth, the way a long marriage can provide, or a lifelong friendship, or a sibling who shares your whole history. When those people are gone, through death, through distance, through the drift that age creates, there can be a silence that isn't just about company. It's about the deep human need to have someone know your full story. Someone who doesn't need the backstory. Someone who gets the reference. I won't pretend that's easily replaced. It isn't. But I've found in small ways that it can be fed. A journal, not a diary, but a real one, where you write to yourself as if to a trusted friend, can do something unexpected. It can give the ununderstood parts of you a place to be witnessed. By you. And sometimes, my friends, that's where understanding has to begin. With yourself. With the willingness to sit with your own full story and say, this happened. This mattered. I was here. Write something down this week. One page. One memory. One truth about who you are that the world around you may not be holding carefully enough. Here is what I want to leave you with today. The loneliness of these years is real. It is not a sign of failure, and it is not a sign of weakness. It is the natural cost of a long life, of outliving people, of outgrowing contexts, of carrying a depth of experience that the fast-moving world doesn't always stop to honor. You are not invisible. You are not irrelevant. You are simply living in a country that most people haven't reached yet. And that is a lonely place. But it is also, if you let it be, a place of uncommon richness. Take the walk you've been putting off and let yourself think. Write the name of someone who knew your younger self. Make the phone call to the friend you've been meaning to reach. Say the true thing at the table. Put one memory down on paper, for no one but yourself. You have lived a long time, my friends. That is not a small thing. And you deserve to be seen, if not always by others, then at least every single day by yourself. Thank you for spending this time with me. Take good care of yourselves, and take good care of each other.